All right, check this out. Donald Trump's hand-picked defense secretary, MAGA Pete Hegseth, struggled to answer any questions about the alleged war crimes he committed in the Caribbean Sea. He repeatedly gets pressed at the Reagan Presidential Library in California about releasing the footage. The footage in question is that of the second strike on September 2nd, when the United States ordered a first strike. And we know this happened. The first strike they've released the footage of. Remember, that's going to be key. They've already released the footage of this first strike. But then we learned that there was a second strike where two survivors were laying there shipwrecked for little less than an hour, and then the United States ordered a second strike, which is likely considered a war crime as these were non-combatants. Many senators said that this footage was disturbing. Even Republican senators launched an investigation into MAGA Pete Hegseth, who is Donald Trump's defense secretary, picked off of Fox News. We'll break all of this down. We've got a lot of interesting clips of Pete trying to squirm out. Just make sure you drop a like, subscribe. We have another CNN debate that's going to be really good coming out tomorrow morning, so make sure you have post notifications on below. And the first question Pete Hegseth gets asked is, when will we see the video? Keep in mind, we've already seen the first strike, but he can't really answer about the second strike.
Of ensuring we meet the criteria. The decision's not at my level anymore, and then we take the strike.
Now, after Admiral Bradley's meetings on Capitol Hill with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, President Trump said he would have no problem if the full video of the strike is released. When can we see that video? When will you release it?
We're reviewing it right now to make sure sources, methods, I mean, it's an ongoing operation, TTPs. We've got operators out there doing this right now, so whatever we were to decide to release, we'd have to be very responsible about. So we're reviewing that right now.
Okay, the problem is they already released part of it when the strike was announced. So they've already released part of the footage. So the fact that Pete Hegseth is saying they still have to review it because this could put people in danger is a lie. He then gets asked further, so will you be releasing the video?
Problem. Not hopefully. It will make the American people safer in the process.
So, Mr. Secretary, you will be releasing that full video?
We are reviewing it right now.
Is that a yes or no?
That is, the most important thing to me are the...
No. That's he's squirming right now. That is not a yes or a no. He's squirming, but it's likely a no.
Not hopefully. It will make the American people safer in the process.
So, Mr. Secretary, you will be releasing that full video?
We are reviewing it right now.
Is that a yes or no?
That is, the most important thing to me are the ongoing operations in the Caribbean with our folks that use bespoke capabilities, techniques, procedures in the process. I'm way more interested in protecting that than anything else. So reviewing the process and we'll see.
Listen, we want to protect American troops as well. That's why we also want to have a standard of engagement. There needs to be a bar, a standard of engagement overseas. And when the United States is dragging that bar down to the depths of hell and just striking people randomly, arbitrarily with no due process, that could endanger U.S. troops who are overseas, who are maybe in striking area or striking reach of other countries. MeidasTouch says, release the video. Should not be hard if you got nothing to hide. To continue, Pete Hegseth gets asked, did you have a plan to deal with these survivors?
Did you have a plan to deal with survivors?
There was protocol for dealing with survivors, but in that...
What was the protocol? Striking them again?
A plan to deal with survivors?
There was protocol for dealing with survivors, but in that... And frankly, there was 10 strikes later, there was a semi-submersible that I think folks here, meaning a submarine. You don't go fishing on a submarine full of drugs. And in that particular case, the first strike didn't take it out. A couple guys jumped off and swam, from what I understand, a ways away. When we struck the submarine a second time, it sunk. And then you had two people that you had to go get. And we had the ability to go get them. We gave them back to their host countries. That's a story that's already been out in the public. So we didn't change our protocol, it was just a different circumstance. So what people think is cavalier or cowboy about it is the exact opposite. These are the most professional Americans going through specific processes about what they can and cannot do, understanding all the authorities, all the laws of war, all the capabilities, and applying it to deter our adversaries. And by the way, there aren't many people getting in boats right now running drugs, which is the whole point.
There's one fatal flaw in what Pete Hegseth is trying to say. When they're talking about the September 2nd boat strike, as we learned yesterday, The boat wasn't even headed to the United States. It was headed to Suriname, a country in South Africa. On CNN last night, I pointed this out and we got into debate.
So shouldn't that matter too?
Well, the Admiral said that Suriname boats do come to the United States with drugs as well. They don't know. They said they could. So we don't know where that particular vessel was going.
That undermines.
No.
That
We know,
undermines
but
the
we
admin's
know.
entire
No, but
argument.
we know that the terrorist organization that had the boat that had the drugs on it that was hit
One of the
is a
admin's-
designated terrorist group.
One of the administration's primary arguments was that these boats were an imminent threat to the United States.
They are. They're
face an
killing
imminent
5,000
threat.
Americans a month.
They're not headed to the
They're not
United
coming to
States.
us.
The drugs are killing 5,000 Americans a month.
I want to pose this question. So the Coast Guard said earlier that 212 ships were intercepted with no deaths. That means we do have the ability to do this. 25% of those ships had no drugs. Are you okay with striking boats with no drugs?
The Coast Guard is patrolling off the coast of the
Are
United
you
States.
okay with a 25% chance?
Wait. It's not a 25% chance off the coast of Venezuela.
This is what happens. They strike boats with no due process when we already have the processes in place to intercept and interdict boats overseas. The Coast Guard reported 212 interceptions of boats that they suspected of being drug boats, the same type of boats that we are suspecting now, and out of those 212 boats, 25% didn't have drugs, meaning they sometimes get it wrong, meaning due process is very, very important, and this guy refuses to admit it on CNN the same way that Pete Hegseth refuses to admit it. Hegseth then gets asked about the Signal report that came out. It's important to preface this by showing you what the Signal report actually said. Quote, what the IG report said: the Secretary's actions created a risk to operational security that could have resulted in failed U.S. mission objectives and potential harm to U.S. pilots. Pete Hegseth has put our military in danger in multiple ways, not only putting our Navy in danger by lowering the rule of engagement, lowering the bar for how you can engage with other countries, but he's also put pilots at risk by repeatedly sending in a group chat directions hours before a bombing happened on the Houthis.
Time, we're running short, but I know the IG report cleared you with Signal. If you had to do it again, would you have used it before combat operations?
I don't live with any regrets. It's not a healthy way to live.
You don't live with any regrets, dude. It says that you put U.S. mission objectives and U.S. pilots in danger actively. You can't just own up to it.
My compass is on these troops, which is why you've seen, and same with the president, the revival of the spirit inside our military. I would encourage some reporters here to spend some time with actual formations of units, Marines, soldiers out there, combat arms folks.
Why is he so condescending? It's insane. You know, the Republican Party tries to act like it's changed so much from the Bush era. It's pro-worker. It's now anti-war. But really, Republicans get into power and they do the same things. First of all, they cut taxes for the rich. They cut benefits for the poor. And then right after that, they try to go to war with either Venezuela or any country they can find with oil. And they do illegal strikes, likely war crimes. Now, of course, the Trump admin is different in many ways. It is more extreme. Bush did not commit his own January 6th. Trump committed the fake elector scheme and much, much worse. So it's not a direct comparison, but as much as Trump wants to act like he's different, he really does follow in a lot of the same footsteps in the key policy proposals, like benefiting the rich and fucking over the poor over and over and over and over again. Again, as Pete Hegseth says, he doesn't live with any regrets. He put people in danger. He then says we are prioritizing our fight with cartels.
And that's why we're prioritizing our fight against cartels throughout the Western Hemisphere. You can just look at the news.
The news says that you killed shipwrecked survivors who were waving something, apparently flags, and they weren't headed to the United States. They weren't headed to the United States.
Not all of the news. The days in which these narco-terrorists, designated terror organizations, operate freely in our hemisphere are over. These narco-terrorists are the Al-Qaeda of our hemisphere, and we are hunting them with the same sophistication and precision that we hunted Al-Qaeda.
Notice how Pete Hegseth said not all of the news, kind of joking around.
Not all of the news.
You mean the only news you let into the Pentagon, like Tim Pool and Benny Johnson and other propagandists? That's the news that you want us to face? That's the news you want us to follow? Pete Hegseth then ends us off by attacking the Washington Post. Take a listen to this one.
Doing that right now.
Did you at any time say that everybody on board should be killed?
Is anybody here from the Washington Post? I don't know where you get your sources, but they suck. Of course not. Anybody that's been in the Situation Room or they've been in the war room there, the Secretary's office, know you don't walk in and say, kill him. It's just patently ridiculous. It's meant to create a cartoon of me and the decisions that we make and how we make them.
I mean, to be fair, you are just a cartoonish version of yourself. Remember when he was on the White House front lawn and one of his sideburns was shaved and one was not? And it was just a really awkward scene where he obviously was likely hungover. But at the end of the day, the reason why this issue is so tough, obviously we can have moral clarity about it, about not killing people with due process. But to people who are apolitical, they see it as a fight between the United States and drug traffickers. And the arbitrary due process doesn't ring for most Americans. So we're fighting on this asymmetric battlefield. Just think about January 6th. We're all disgusted by January 6th. If you're watching this video, you likely understand the gravity of the situation and what happened with the fake elector scheme. But obviously that didn't ring with a lot of Americans. It's quite arbitrary. And the inflation that followed during Biden's era, not because of him, but during his era, outweighed any arbitrary January 6th-ness. So you have to think about this. The asymmetric battlefield that we're fighting on when we're debating this issue is that most Americans think, oh, drug traffickers coming to the U.S. Many Americans know someone who may have overdosed or may have died from certain types of drugs. It's very common. And they think, yeah, strike those motherfuckers. I've heard so many of my friends from high school, people I used to know, posting, yeah, strike those people, where the due process argument is morally and legally correct, but it's hard to make. So what you have to do is help people understand this is a broader battle to do regime change in Venezuela, go to war for oil, and essentially not be too different than the Bush administration. So when we're playing on their battlefield and talking about drug boats, kind of ceding ground. When we're playing on our battlefield and talking about endless wars that Trump is starting that he promised against, that's how you win the messaging on that. That's just what I've learned from debating it the past few days. Great CNN debate coming out tomorrow morning. Drop a like, subscribe. Make sure you have post notifications on. It'll be coming out early, 6:30 a.m. CT. Love you all. Peace out.